Hello everyone, this is Miss Carabelle here with the Snow Day Argumentation Special. And I want to bring you back to visualizing arguments. So remember the Prezi that helped you visualize the arguments and the template that you made for the body language TED Talk. And to talk you through on this video is how to move from your ideas, from your target and your research, to structuring your argument and to organizing it visually, sort of like the Prezi. So my topic is curling, and I showed you this in class, and then I moved to my research. And I asked some questions, I wrote down the answers, I asked some more questions, trying to narrow it down, and now it's your turn. So it's time to get started. Go ahead and gather these materials: poster, words, research tape, pens or markers, and some ingenuity, which I like to think of as putting your inner genius to work. So go ahead and gather those materials and then come right back. Here are the words. These are the words that we talked about in class, and you can go ahead and lay them out in this order so that they're easier to see. Once you have all of the pieces of paper and all of your materials, go ahead and lay them out and find a nice quiet space where you can work. When you're ready, press play to continue on to learn more about curling and how to structure your argument. Here's my poster. What I did was I started with the audience, and I made a curtain, as you can see, to demonstrate that I was putting this on for an audience. The audience goes up at the beginning because that is going to affect everything else that happens. Go ahead and add the audience and then to your poster, and then figure out who your audience would be. Since my topic is curling, I decided that a reasonable audience would be anyone who watches the Olympics or enjoys strategic games. So think about the kind of person or types of people who would be interested in your topic, or the kind of person who maybe you would want to hear your topic, especially if your topic is one that is somewhat controversial. Next, I'm going to put the hook onto my poster. So you can go ahead and draw a rectangle in the upper left-hand corner of the poster and tape on the hook and the picture of the hook. Of course, if you're artistic and you'd like to be creative, especially given that you have a snow day, you can illustrate your own hook, and we're actually going to save the hook till the end, and we'll come back to that after the conclusion. After the hook, what you want to put on is the background and context. So this is where you bring in your target. So I'm going to bring my target over here onto the poster, and it's going to take up a little too much room. So what I'm going to do is trim it down a little bit, and then I'm going to paste it here onto the poster so that I can then give everybody some background. So first what I'll do is I'll talk about Winter Olympic sports, how I narrowed that down to curling, and then to the strategy, and then to sweeping effectively. And while we're in this stage of organizing, it's great to think about why you did certain things. For example, why did I narrow it down to curling? And then from there, why strategy? And then why sweeping? However, once we get to the actual writing part, the process part is going to disappear. So there's sort of a level on here where we're thinking through why we're doing things, and that's extremely important. But it's also the part that's not going to end up in the final written product. So that may not affect what you do right now, but just keep that in mind as you're going through. You can pause now and go ahead and stick on your hook and your background and context, and then the next thing we'll look at is the problem and the dilemma. My next step is to lay out what the problem or the dilemma is. And you'll remember that I'm focusing within curling, I'm focusing on sweeping effectively, but to get to that I really wanted to establish that the problem, the overall problem, is that curling is misunderstood. So I'm getting at the perception problem. More specifically, people think that it is a silly activity and that it resembles housework more than a sport. And you may recall that that is what I thought until I did it. Also, very few people in the US have personal experience with curling, and people tend to think that it's like shuffleboard or that it's a game for old people. So that frames what I'm about to do, and my next step will be to look down at my thesis and to figure out how am I going to discuss sweeping effectively as a response to my problem. So here we go. Now it's time to develop a thesis. There are 4 different categories. Category 1 is perception or misperception. In other words, people tend to think something about your topic, but in fact, something else is true. There are a couple sentence stems here that you can use, and you could start out with the false belief and then go to the true belief, or you can start out the other way. The second category is importance. And in this part, you want to say either that your topic is important, that's your very narrow topic, or that the most significant part of your topic is important. And this can also mix in with the first one, and you can say that people may think that something is important, but in fact it's not, or people don't understand how important something is. It is important, and here's why. The third category is cause and effect. As a result of something else happens, or to get a little more complex, something has affected something else in a particular way because of something else. So in this one, you're noticing sort of the why of the cause and effect, whereas the previous skeleton or sentence stem is just the cause and the effect. The fourth category is solution and proposal. And this category brings us to more of a social action or a solving a world problem kind of a question, where you would say to solve the problem of something, something should happen. Or you can combine it with one of the previous ones. Instead of something happening, something else should happen. So those are the 4 types of thesis proposals. Once you have your thesis category picked out, in other words, once you know what type of thesis you want to work with, go ahead and draft that thesis, and when you're ready, write it on a small piece of paper that will then go in the middle of your poster. And that is the next thing that I am going to show you, my thesis about curling.